Hey y'all, this is Justin Timberlake. You know that a lot of podcasts are really bogus? And that Mike's Daily Podcast is completely independently created and produced? That's pretty cool, yo. Every podcast that you hear practically is part of a huge network, corporation, or just lifted off of a radio station. I'm on every single radio station in the world. Yeah! Did you know that big name podcast players like iTunes and Stitcher show only the podcasts that pay for advertising? Or who have big names that have been on TV or film? Please do what you can to support independent podcasters and see every single movie that I am in. For I am Justin Timberlake, and I am so indescribably rad. And my songs are awesome. Mike's Daily Podcast starts right now.
This show is clean, pretty much.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Justin Timberlake, wow. It is episode 820. Hello, it's Mike Matthews broadcasting from the last place on earth, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California. Today, the return of the much-loved segment, This is Interesting, where we look at some very interesting recent news. We also hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley, and we just had a star drive by. Well, it was a real star, and it was 70,000 years ago.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
But you get the idea. That story we are going to get to know.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
On this show. The last show, Brewmaster and Disgruntled Player ripped off their shirts to show off their amazing physiques. Back in the early 90s, I never watched Twin Peaks. But it appears that an actor from that show, Kyle MacLachlan, he's been getting a lot of work with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and on that show, Portland. He's all over the place these days.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
He was also in How I Met Your Mother, too. Getting a lot of work, like late in life, just like the Bob Odenkirk.
Mike's
all over the
Daily
dramatic world.
Podcast.
That Breaking Bad spinoff.
Yeah!
So there is hope for you. If you are an actor and you're aging and you're getting on in years, you can be seen on all kinds of things and make money. Look who just walked in. Hello, my guys. This is Madame Rootabega, and I would like to be in some movies. You would, madam? You're an actress? Yes, Michael Matthew. Yeah, give me a script. All right, read this. Gallon of milk, a case of Nutter Butters. Yeah, I think I believe that. That was a beautiful read. Really well done. Thank you, Michael Matthew. Oh! Yeah, so that show, the last one, Brewmaster and the Disgruntled Player ripped off their shirts because we were discussing how in all the superhero movies and TV shows, the guys have got to show their incredible upper body torso thingies. Look who else just walked in.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we are not going to rip off our shirts for you today.
Excellent. Good. I saw 7 nipples yesterday, and I don't think I want to see that again. Yeah, Mike, we're not going to expose ourselves. Do you know that? Good. Well, yeah, so Kyle MacLachlan all over the place. It's pretty bizarre. But, I think it's because he's got one of those intense faces. It's almost like one of those puppets I had, but it was the devil. He's got that strong chin. It's just that you want to put little horns on his head. Michael Matthew, what are you talking about? I don't know. So I would like to bring to you at this point this segment on the show known as
Mike's Absolutely Useless Review.
Thanks to my wonderful roommate who hosts a show called Marvel at the Movies. He has, every single Marvel movie there is because he and his friend review them on the podcast that they do. And they actually probably have more listeners than this show does. So that says a lot right there. People are really into Marvel and this show sucks. But he let me watch Guardians of the Galaxy. I have not seen that movie yet. Yes, I'm one of the few people left in the world that's not a lemming. But now I guess I am a lemming and I have watched it and I can't unwatch it. There are parts I would like to unwatch it, but I found it fascinating because this movie was seen by so many people. You probably saw it. And it was liked by so many people. And as I was watching it, I'm like, I don't like this movie. I mean, there were a couple things I liked. I liked the beginning and the thing with his mom dying. And I'm glad they didn't give a lot of backstory about him and the redneck space pirates that raised him, apparently, and his redneck space father. I like the fact that they've got these southern accents up in space. These aliens do. It's cool. That might be where the South got their accents, is from some aliens. Is that what you're trying to tell us, Marvel? Also, I like the use of all the Gilmore Girl actors. Let's hear it for Gilmore Girls. Yeah, Logan's dad played the grandfather that was going to adopt the young Peter, but Peter gets abducted. And then Kurt from Gilmore Girls, he's one of the space pirates. The whole mixtape concept was great, as it was actually that the music from that became huge. The album became huge last year, was a big seller. But it's finally proof to all the old fogies that used to say, 70s music is crap. There were a lot of great songs out of the 70s, shut up. And it fit great in the movie. And I actually have a cassette somewhere. I don't think it can play anymore. The wheels are all locked up, but it looks kind of like that cassette that was being used in the movie. I love the scene when they're all together and they're friends finally. They're all getting along. And they're talking, and the dialogue is so funny. And just the fact that, it's a bunch of people. Well, some of them are computer animated people, but they're having this natural, hilarious conversation. And they're talking about friendship and all. I thought that scene was pretty good. And I like the tree man. But what I did not like was, I think Bradley Cooper was a complete waste, because the whole time he sounded like Jason Alexander. They could have gotten Jason Alexander for half the price. I don't understand. Marvel, you could have saved so much money. And the whole beginning, where we first meet Chris Pratt on the planet, and he's singing and he's picking up little aliens and using them as microphones and lip syncing, that made no sense. They didn't explain what he was doing with that weird flashlight thing that showed people that weren't there. If they did explain it, I didn't hear it. So maybe I'm not as perceptive, but at that point, they were beating everything else over my head. So I am surprised I didn't catch it. I'm tired of escaping from jail scenes. This has to end in movies. They're not. They're so paint by numbers now. I'm tired of them. I'm tired of Marvel and DC movies with massive spaceships falling to Earth or falling to the planet's surface, and they're falling down. And there's every single movie I see. Star Trek had the same thing. Star Trek 2. Crashing towards San Francisco. What is this? We're done. We're done with this. Jail scenes and falling spaceships. And then the whole Stan Lee showing up in every single Marvel movie. Yeah, I guess that's got to be done. And he showed up in Agent Carter, too. You would think with all these appearances he's done in all of these movies, the guy could learn to act. Oh, but Mike, he's so old. Yeah, but he's so rich. Come on. Pay for some acting lessons. Feels so good to get that off my chest. And speaking of chests, there was a bare chest scene in this movie as well. Chris Pratt showing off his muscles. The obligatory shirt off scene, like we discussed yesterday. And even that one character doesn't have a shirt on the whole movie. Kind of going Hulk style.
Mike, in no way are we going to be taking off our shirts today. We just want you to know that.
Yeah, so don't try and make us take off our shirts. Do you know that? Bison Bentley, you could have been the raccoon. You kind of sound like him. I do? Well, I could make a lot of money in a Marvel movie. Do you know that? Yeah, just change your name to Bradley Cooper. Oh, guys, come on. Don't. Wait, now I count 20 nipples. How is that happening? So we just discussed the outer space movie, but this is a real outer space fact that they just discovered, according to BBC News, bbc.com. An alien star passed through our solar system as recently as 70,000 years ago. No other star is known to have approached us this close. An international team of researchers say it came 5 times closer than our current nearest neighbor, Proxima Centauri. The object was a red dwarf known as Shoal's star, It cruised through the outer reaches of the solar system, a region known as the Oort cloud. Shoal's star was not alone. It was accompanied on its travels by an object known as a brown dwarf. These are essentially failed stars that lack the necessary mass to get fusion going in their cores. These were all figured out and findings published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters. Observations of the dim star's trajectory suggest that 70,000 years ago, this cosmic infiltrator passed within 0.8 light years of the sun. By comparison, Proxima Centauri is just 4.2 light years away from our sun. In the paper, astronomers say they are 98% sure that the Shoal star traveled through what is known as the outer Oort cloud, a region at the edge of the solar system filled with trillions of comets a mile or more across. The region is like a spherical shell around the solar system and may extend out to as much as 100,000 astronomical units. 1 astronomical unit is the distance between the Earth and the Sun. The Oort cloud is thought to give rise to long-period comets that can swing past the Sun when the orbits are disturbed. The astronomers in the study believe that though this is the closest flyby detected so far, it's not uncommon for alien stars to buzz the Sun. A star probably passes through the Oort cloud every 100,000 years or so. Isn't that fascinating? What do you think about that? Email me, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. I read your comments on the section emails from email. Also email me there if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you'd like to sponsor the show. mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. And speaking of which...
Email for me now.
Yes. What's that? Why did I go yes? It's weird. You can also, of course, contact me if you're a friend on Facebook. Mike's Daily Podcast at Facebook if you want to comment there. And someone did that. Wesley Richardson. He said, "Hey, Mike, enjoy hearing you on Country Crossroads. Yes, I'm on a internet country radio station on the weekends." And he says, "Thanks for playing my request so quick yesterday." Yes. In fact, it is so... We've got this thing now on countrycrossroadsradio.com where you can actually request a song and it will play like within 20 minutes tops. It's amazing. So you can request a country song. They've got a bunch you can choose from. All kinds. If you're into the classics and if you're into the more recent tunes, they're all there. He says, "I've been listening to your podcasts this AM." Thank you, Wesley. So, yes, you can reach me there through my Facebook or tweet me on Twitter. My handle on Twitter is @MikeTalks. I'm on Facebook. Well, I'm also Mike Talks on Facebook, but you can also reach me at Mike's Daily Podcast, facebook.com/Mike's Daily Podcast. And if you are friends with us on Facebook, when I post a new show, share it with your friends and more people will find out about us. It's a great way to help more people know about the show, and then we don't languish in obscurity. We're also on Tumblr, Yelp, Instagram, and yes, you can hear us on iTunes. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, and you can comment on the show and rate the show. If you do that, like Justin Timberlake was saying at the beginning of the show, it helps more people find out about us because we don't pay for advertising and our name isn't Mark Maron or Chris Hardwick. So commenting on the show and rating the show helps us out. You can also find us on SoundCloud, YouTube. We're on the TuneIn app for your smartphone. We're on Stitcher, Podomatic, Mixcloud, and Spreaker. And another way to support the show is through that Amazon link. If you're going to buy anything through Amazon, go through mikesdailypodcast.com and click on that little window on the left-hand side and buy something through Amazon, and that helps us out. You can see the blog, the Daily Podcast picture. All my past interviews, too, are there at mikesdailypodcast.com.
This is interesting.
Wow, this is interesting.
You know, I like to read a lot of throwaway newspapers. And then I also have 1 million subscriptions to different magazines. And I find fascinating things that are published with words. And I found one here, some stories here This is interesting.
Your dog keeps licking my nose and chewing up all those letters, saying you
better bet your
bet your life.
In early November, speaking of dogs licking noses, San Francisco's first courthouse therapy dog showed up at his new workplace, bringing a soothing presence to an often intimidating environment. Faber is a 2-year-old golden retriever trained by canine companions for independence, to offer comfort and emotional support to victims, witnesses, employees, and everyone else involved in court proceedings. Folks at the San Francisco courthouse welcomed him with plenty of smiles and pets. Research has shown that the presence of a calm and loving canine can ease anxiety, improve mood, and generally reduce stress in human beings. A lot of dogs are now seen at airports to provide comfort to people waiting for oftentimes belated and delayed planes. Such benefits are especially useful in situations that trigger intense emotions, like dealing with the criminal justice system. Faber isn't cleared for the courtroom, however, just yet, but he has lightened up the corridors, waiting areas, and interview rooms at the Victim Services Unit with his serene composure and gentle gestures of friendship. San Francisco District Attorney George Gaskin told ABC News that he would like to see therapy dogs allowed in the courtroom someday. He believes especially trained dogs like Faber could be a balm to the nerves of trial witnesses, especially children, the elderly, and anyone who has been subjected to traumatic events. And calmer witnesses tend to give more accurate and complete testimony. This article from Beowulf newspaper. Bananas. In sub-Saharan Africa, up to 30% of kids under age 5 are at risk of going blind, among other conditions, for one simple reason: they don't get eye-nurturing vitamin A. But what if the bananas that made up a lot of their diet could be re-engineered to deliver it? Well, that's the idea that struck Australian biogeneticist James Dale when he visited Uganda in the early 2000s. This according to Time magazine. With backing from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Dale and his team began developing a vitamin A enriched super banana. Human trials start soon in the U.S. In Africa, they will be introduced using what Dale calls a reverse Ponzi scheme to spark adoption. Village leaders will be given 10 free super banana plants to grow on the condition that they give at least 20 new shoots to other villagers who will do the same. These bananas could potentially solve a major health problem, says Dale.
'Cause love's already gone, and all I'm taking with me are the pieces of my heart, and all I'll leave are smoke rings in the dark.
Smoking. It's bad for you. I don't do it. I never have. I have 2 parents that smoked my whole life, and I really don't care for it. But it is a scenario familiar to most habitual smokers in New York. This according to an article written by Matthew Castle, who is indeed a smoker, and he wrote this for the New York Observer. He says, step outside, light up and wait with no small amount of trepidation for the swarm of cigarette scroungers to come circling in, attempting to bum a smoke. They may be brandishing a dollar bill to pay you for your troubles, as though you are a human vending machine, or they may simply expect you to dish out a Lucy. A Lucy. For free. And of course, yes, that's Loosie, not your best friend Lucy. There needs to be more women named Lucy in this world. There doesn't seem to be any anymore. Well, Whether there are more beggars than usual is impossible to quantify. Homeless people don't count, though it certainly seems so. In 2009, The Onion ran a faux news item on the single greatest threat to American smokers, a man suspected of bumming more than 75,000 cigarettes nationwide. One gets the sense that these puff predators aren't real smokers per se, but mercenaries, swooping in to get their fix whenever they see fit. But this is no small thing given the steep price of a pack of cigarettes, which in New York City can cost around $15. Although smokers are an ostracized lot, New York smoking rates are, it turns out, on the rise. There are more than 1 million smokers in the city, according to the New York Department of Health, up 2 points from 14% in 2010. So you might think smokers would have an easier time avoiding these situations, but the fact is there are simply more smokers to bother. Audrey Silk is the founder of the New York advocacy group Citizens Lobbying Against Smoker Harassment. She grows her own tobacco and rolls her own cigarettes, which she said changes the financial calculus. Quote, as a smokers' rights advocate, if somebody wants a cigarette, not that I encourage smoking, but there's camaraderie there, and I am more than happy to give them one, she says. Well, New York's anti-smoking laws have forced smokers out of the bars, restaurants, offices, and parks in which they were once welcome and onto the streets. There they are comforted not only by cigarette supplicants, but sidelong scowls from health-conscious pedestrians, I being possibly one of them. Fran Lebowitz, perhaps the city's most prominent smoker, says, the fact that I have to be outside to begin with is so enraging that I don't have much ire left if anyone asks me for a cigarette. Of course, you could quit smoking. That might help the problem.
It's a heavy toll, 'cause it burns as slow as whiskey through an empty
Aching hole. As we got said, last place on earth, we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley, California. Gary Allen has done a couple really good country songs. I like that one a lot.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Not too far away from us here in Podcaster Valley, California is Marina Park in San Leandro. And I was walking Basil the Boxer there one particular day, and he and I saw the most amazing sunset. As the sun was setting over the peninsula over there on the San Mateo side, San Francisco side, and it was a neat shot. So there you can see that picture at mikesdailypodcast.com. Michael Masu, it is beautiful. It is a radiant photograph of nature in California. Wow, that's an excellent script reading. You really should. Why are you not an actress now being seen in a Marvel movie? I don't know, Michael Masu. You mean, you could be an evil villain. Do sort of like an evil villain thing like you would do on a James Bond movie. I'm going to kill you, Mr. Bond. Oh, that's so believable. Stan Lee, get out of the movies. Madame Rootabega, you're in. Thank you, Michael Masu. Woo. Next show, it is going to be an amazing interview with a cool San Francisco group that I just recently discovered. They are called The Great Highway, or just Great Highway. You can drop the like they did with Facebook. So we'll hear that interview next show. Plus, we'll hear from Shelley Schuhart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the Engineer. And would you guys put on some shirts, please?
Michael Matthews, don't you want to say something like we look like a couple of Greek Adonises day?
Yeah, we look like Greek people. Do you know that?
I'm not that good of an actor.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!